false? If I had to book my own appointments, I would prefer to do it online. Cool.
There's things through the NHS, there's things out of the NHS, there's always some form of support, and I don't think it's that difficult to find it. I think it's just people, wanting to find it and, finally realising that they can ask for help, and it's getting the courage to ask for help, which I think is more tricky than finding it.
I think that perhaps they don't do enough to promote themselves and to let the young people know that there are confidential services available, services because I think one of the issues is that quite often young people feel quite uncomfortable about going to see a faceless organisation.
True or false?
If I had an issue and wanted to go to the doctors, I'd be worried about having a male doctor.
Cool.
I think the NHS does a lot to help young people.
Cool.
I think I'd rather have a female doctor, but I wouldn't feel extremely uncomfortable if it was a man. I think I'd be okay with it. I'd just prefer to have a woman doctor.
I would be too scared to go to the doctors on my own.
Cool.
Just giving me more options really, and just talk to me more clearly about it, because whenever I'd ask for their help, they pretty much just give me the same thing over and over again, and I just got fed up of it really, because it didn't really seem to help at all.
I get the impression that a lot of young people would feel uncomfortable going to the doctors, and I kind of think that it's not something that is easy to do for them, and if you don't have a parent or an older sibling who kind of guides you towards it, then it is something really quite daunting, even if it's something really small just for a checkup. Yeah, I think that's one thing that should be addressed. I feel really comfortable going to the doctors now, but I think most of that is down to my mum. She's always come with me, and obviously getting a bit older now, I'm comfortable going on my own, but yeah, it just takes a while to realise actually, they're not going to judge you, they're just there purely to help you. But I think it's always a case with young people, they feel like everywhere all the adults are treating them differently just because they're teenagers, and they're misbehaving and they're doing things they shouldn't be doing, but that's not really their job. So
I think a lot of young people would like more options for just interacting with the health service independently. They are just experiencing symptoms or something, and they might not want to kind of alarm a parent and get it actually checked out first.
You change doctors an awful lot. You used to when my parents were little, they used to have a set doctor. They'd always go to that doctor, but now it would change every time you had some different problem. So you wouldn't really know the doctor. They'd make you feel like you know them and that you can trust them, but you don't know them, so you can't really.
True or false? You have to queue for ages at the hospital. Cool.
I remember before I moved to Buckinghamshire, I was living in Harrow, and I think we're talking about when I was diagnosed with diabetes, but in Harrow I remember the doctors wouldn't really explain much to me. I mean, they'd all explain it to my parents didn't know how to talk to me about it, so just well, he's diabetic, deal with it. We weren't really sure. But the Buckinghamshire service is a lot more friendlier, and it's just a nicer environment really. They're really genuine, and they definitely know how to treat me well, so obviously since I'm not unhealthy at the moment, I'm quite healthy with good readings. So yeah, I think especially the paediatrics and especially diabetics, they're really good at handling those.
As a youth worker, I've had quite a few interactions with the NHS and health and social care, mainly through taking young people to hospital in A&E, and I've also had experience with taking young people to mental hospitals as well. So I'll start off with A&E visits. On the whole, actually, despite what they say in the news, they've been very positive. You still have to wait for a few hours, depending on how urgent the case has been. But actually, with young people, you get seen relatively quickly. But once you're in, you're there all night, and inevitably, young people have issues when it gets late at night. So I've never been to an A&E hospital when it's daylight, which is quite an amusing thought. So arriving at 10 o'clock, midnight usually, and I don't think I've ever left before 3 a.m. However, every single time the issue has been fixed or has been addressed. So in that sense, it's been a very positive experience for me.
There we go, yeah, okay. I don't actually want to. Should we go around selling these? We'll be like a... Whoa!
I've got two different sides of explaining the NHS because my two experiences I've had with my health problems have been very different. I've got a heart condition which has been dealt with really well by the NHS, but about a year and a half ago I got a slip disc playing football, and I went to Stoke Mandeville and Wickham as we were in Bucks, and I didn't receive very good help. So I went in and out of hospital there to try and find out what the problem was. And in the end, after a year, must have been about 10 to 15 times to Stoke Mandeville and Wickham, and I still at the same stage, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And by this stage, my injury got a lot worse, so the pain I was in every day was really bad. I got referred to Oxford, the Nuffield Orthopaedic Centre, and I went 4 times to the orthopaedic centre, and the 4th time I was there I had my operation. I had a meeting, and then I had a scan, and another meeting, then I had my operation, and that was in at least a month, and they gave me the option of what date I could have my operation, and it was amazing because I understand that Stoke Mandeville and Wickham aren't specifically back hospitals, but the system was a lot better in Oxford. With my heart problems, I went to Wickham, and that's specifically cardiac and stroke ward. And the times I've been there, the nurses have been fantastic, and I don't think they get enough recognition because for 24 hours they look after you the whole time, and they have so many different skills because mentally they help you when you're upset or worried. They have the experience of how to calm you down, but when it comes down to when you're in a tough situation with your health, their knowledge is unbelievable, and sometimes it's like talking to a doctor because they know everything about the problem that you have, which is quite inspiring as well.
True or false?
I know a lot of people with a mental health illness.
I think a large problem with our age group is bullying, because people just think it's much less serious than it actually is, and they don't think it can really damage people in the long term.
I know a lot about mental health.
There's a particular young person I'm thinking of. She's been admitted several times into the same mental hospital and has more or less had the same treatment every time. Now, in a sense, it's good that she can get that treatment each time and for free. However, the fact that it's a repeated thing, the same issue over and over again, even if it's months apart, shows that it's just addressing the symptoms rather than the main issue. And so what I'd like to see is a more strategic approach, not just with the NHS, but with youth workers, with the police, with social services, with the housing authorities. And there have been attempts to make that happen in the past. And because so many different professionals need to be involved and they're all so busy, it's a really difficult thing. However, I think the answer for the NHS with aftercare, that's the right word, I think, aftercare, is to bring different professionals together.
Well, it's not really for me, it's for more people who are like me, who maybe don't get the care I get now. The paramedics and police could do some special training for 136s, especially for the patients who lose complete touch with reality. And the 999 need to be more aware that calls like this could come in, and they need to take it more sensitively.
One incident where we went in, we were waiting in this waiting room for about 4 hours and not being told anything. And for a young person who is suffering with mental health, it's not really the best way to deal with them if they're having to wait in this small, very claustrophobic room for 4 hours or more. And no one was really willing to tell us anything when we did go out to ask what was going on. So that wasn't a very good experience that we've had. I know that for eating disorders, it's really, they do offer a lot of support, particularly for family members. But for self-harm, I think there could be a lot, more awareness made about self-harm. Maybe classes for family members and friends who are kind of affected by it, just so that they can help the person going through it, particularly if they're young. I think also classes for the young person themselves. Not classes as such, but just, places that they can go to and chat about it. Some more counselling services, because there's not that many around that deal mainly with self-harm. So, creating more of that, of an opportunity for that. And also the places where there are counselling services, there's a huge waiting list. So if there were more through the NHS, that would help young people in the area.
I think the main issue is that, all these health and social, care services that are out there are they're unaware of, the things happening, like the bullying online and the depression, and I don't feel there's enough help for us young people, and and it's hard for us to open up about if we're being bullied or if we suffer from depression or self-harming. It's hard for us to open up about it because we feel like we're going to be judged because we're judged by everyone else. So we feel that if we go for help with that, we're just going to be judged again. So we don't feel, we don't feel as if we can expose what we're being exposed to. So we find it hard to open up about it, and adults and stuff, the
be honest
carers,
about it.
they don't really seem to understand, and they can't seem to recognise these things that are happening, and they're more severe than they realise.